Why do I want the job? I thought that if I ever ran for a statewide office, this would be the one because it fits best with the skills that I've developed both in the private sector and in the public sector. And the people of Oregon, we're not so much a blue state, we're purple state, we're rugged individualists. And I think they can see that having this experience, especially now when people are looking for level-headed leadership. And this pandemic's not going to help our state budget out or anything, but I think I can be in a good position to help Oregonians and businesses and our economy and our budget at the state level get back on track.
What is the, I mean, you're in Secretary of State, a lot of people don't even know what that job is, the average voter, but it's elections, it's auditing. What do you think needs to be changed or improved?
Well, with elections and auditing, and there's also public records and public archives. It's very important. And then you've got the corporations division. So the Secretary of State is the more obscure position, but I've had so much experience dealing with the functions of the Secretary of State's office just through my work in the legislature. There's one committee, well, there's actually two committees that are required statutorily. One is the Audits Committee, the Legislative Audits Committee. And I've served on that one every time that has been convened, and it is very important. I love the fact that now we're able to connect the dots better between the good work of the auditor's office and informing the work of the legislature, both in policy and in budget. We're finally getting to that point just this last couple of years where we're really bridging that gap that I think has existed. So that's really good. And I had ideas of being able to follow up with some of the audits that the Secretary of State's office has done over the years. But I think right now, one of the priorities will be for trying to help us get back on track after this COVID pandemic, and hopefully it will come to an end and not keep going. But I think we also have to be prepared for future times because we need to look at things through the lens of, are we going to have more of these invisible attacks on our system, whether it's another virus or it's going to be the Cascadia subduction zone, or maybe a big hacking of government computers. I mean, who knows? So I think we need to look at being better prepared so that we can be more resilient as a state. And I think there's a lot of things that the Secretary of State's office can do in helping that move along.
Do you need better election security? Like Mark Hass says, his day one, first thing he wants to do is have a cybersecurity task force to make sure the voter database is secure.
Well, I think that's an important part of it. I would like to look at all of the functions of the elections office, or actually all the functions of what a person does to register to vote, and all where it intersects. So I'm talking about from registering to vote, to getting a ballot, to sending it in, to counting it. All those things need to be looked at. We need to make sure that we're strong, as strong as we can be in all those areas, and secure as we can be in all those areas, because everybody needs to have confidence in their elections. That's basic.
Mm-hmm. You own your own business, and you've been a lawmaker for a long time. You've touched on those things. You think that gives you a good balance?
I do. I know what it's like to, have to deal with some hardships in a business, and I also had to deal with a lot of larger projects and many projects, and moving people and making sure everybody's in the right place. And I think that'll translate well just to the management of a $80 million biennium agency with 200 plus people. So I think that skill will translate well.
Dennis Richardson, before he passed away, was the first Republican to hold statewide office in a very long time. Are you trying to mirror his campaign, his style at all?
I really looked up to him, and I was so happy when he was able to get into that office. And I really appreciate how he approached it from it's supposed to be a managerial, administerial sort of position, nonpartisan. And though it is a partisan position per se, because we're all running as Democrats or Republicans, whatever, but it is a nonpartisan agency with nonpartisan responsibilities, and that is exactly how I want to approach it.
Gotcha. Your opponent, Dave Stouffer, has some interesting ideas, and he told me he wants to get the office so that he could maybe one day be governor and get his environmental inventions out there. Have you put much thought into his ideas?
Yeah, I'm focusing on the campaign that I have. I think we do need people with inventive ideas, and we need to kind of, evaluate some of these things that are out there that maybe we haven't thought of before, and be serious about trying to maybe do things differently in our state. I don't think that's a bad thing to be inventive and come up with ideas that some may say are a little off the wall, but sometimes that's how you get to being a leader. You get to evaluate what's out there and maybe try a different tack every once in a while.
Some people use this office to as a stepping stone to governor. Do you want to be governor?
That's not why I'm doing this. Like I said, if I look at the Secretary of State's office as a perfect fit for me and what my skills and interest areas are, and with the experiences that I've had, that is what I'm looking to do, is be Secretary of State. But I realize that one of the responsibilities is that should something happen to the governor, or they step down or move on for whatever reason, that they are a de facto lieutenant governor. We are one of the states that don't have that position, and so our Secretary of State is that position.
Some of the other folks running for office on the Democrat side are in favor of same-day voter registration, and some want to do what Washington does, allow you to postmark your ballot on the day of the election. It would still count even if it's received after Election Day. What do you think?
Well, same day voter registration, we had some people try to take advantage of that ability a few decades ago, and for their own political
The
gain. I don't
Rajneeshis, yes.
see, yeah, specifically, yes, and I just don't. I be really cautious on that, but I do like the idea of counting postmarks. There are a number of people voting overseas, and we're trying to accommodate military voters, absentee voters that are out of the country, and people that through no fault of their own, the mail might be really slow, especially with this pandemic. That's something that that's a very real situation where people can vote, they vote on time, they get it, in the mail in what should be a good amount of time, and then it doesn't get to the elections office and it isn't counted. So I would definitely like to entertain the idea of postmark, just like
Yeah.
Washington.
Yeah, just like Washington does. I always say whenever we write scripts, hey, it's election day. I always have to remind people because I live in Washington. I say,
No,
it doesn't have to
don't
be in
mail
by
it.
right, exactly. Um, you announced your candidacy, I believe, at the Timber Unity rally. Was there anything symbolic about that?
Uh, it just had a lot of people there that I knew had supported me on different things. So it was just also, I was able to get signatures so I could get into the voters pamphlet and not have to pay $3,000. So it was a money saving issue as well.
Oh, that's smart. I didn't realize that that's a thing. What do you think about internet voting? Do you think it's safe?
Yeah, that kind of makes me wince. I know that the Independent Party is trying that right now, and there are some jurisdictions around our state that I think, are trying that or have tried it. I'd be really careful with that. I would really want to have rock solid assurances, and they would have to be constantly occurring, because so many things can change with the internet and hacking, and it makes me a little worried. I'll have to say that.
Gotcha. Um, the public records advocate, I interviewed her right when she
Ginger
resigned.
McCall,
I
yeah.
was the first person to interview her when she resigned, and she was very, very frustrated, very frustrated. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think should be the future of that office?
Well, I like the direction that we were attempting to go. I remember we spoke for hours after her resignation as a council, and we were going through all the different things that need to happen, and we were really hashing out a lot of different scenarios. And the bottom line is, we need independence for that office, and also a way of funding it that doesn't depend on necessarily the general fund. So we're looking at different things to fund the office as well as bringing independence to that office. We had a bill, uh, me along with a representative who is also on the Public Records Advisory Council. We requested a bill be brought forward that
Mhm.
was approved by the council, and it was not able to get through this last session. That kind of had other issues going on, but that's we're actually working on improvements to the bill and bringing in some more things that really need to be addressed, and that's what 2021 will bring for the legislature to look at.
Before I let you go, is there anything that we're not addressing that you want to bring up? I don't know what I don't know
Well,
sometimes.
just one of the things that I've served on the Legislative Audits Committee probably longer than any legislator there, but also I brought forward worked across the aisle, bringing forward the transparency website that we have now, which has tons and tons and tons of information, and a lot of people don't know about it, but there's a lot of information there to be had. And it's because of my work across the aisle with other people when Republicans were in a super minority back in 2009. So public records, transparency, better accessibility for people to scrutinize our government, that has been a hallmark of work that I've had during my time in the legislature. So that's why I really love the Office of the Secretary of State, because it deals with elections. I've been on the Help America Vote Act steering committee, as well as elections committees, and working to make sure we have that integrity and security and all that, because it's so important for people.
Um, I was reading the Bed and Bulletin, which endorsed you for the Republican side. Some of the public comments are like, yeah, but she walked out. As a Republican trying to win statewide office, you have to convince a lot of Democrats to vote for you. Do you think that's going to come back and haunt you?
Well, I'm sure it will be brought up. That's absolutely true. It is also true that our governor had done something similar. So it is part of the process. That we have in our Constitution a quorum, and that quorum can be denied if there are some things that need some attention according to the minority, and that's there. And it's an unfortunate thing that had happened, but that is part of the democracy that we have, and it was to fight for the ability of people to be able to weigh in on a particular issue that was brought up at the legislature and let their voices be heard, because that was being drowned out and being actually purposely stopped. So we were standing up for that.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And good luck to you.
Thank you, Dan.